So we're getting down to the wire of the Donald Trump showdown of the inauguration. Check out my hat. And yeah, it's been a pretty bizarre start to the 2017. The first 20 days in, you've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. I'm out of frame here. And check out my hat again. Yeah, I don't know what we're going to see at the inauguration. There's Disrupt J20. And this has been planned for a while now. Obviously, this is going to link back to George Soros and that whole group there. The thing is that these people, Operation Veritas is kind of, although there's kind of a counter-sting operation to Operation Veritas, what's happening is they got these people going around trying to find people that are going to, basically it's just like a sting operation, basically entrapment. And they say, yeah, well, we need somebody to do this and this and this, and we're willing to pay this, this, and this. And that's what Operation Veritas is doing. And there's takers, obviously. Oh, yeah, well, we'll do it for this, we'll do that. Oh, we'll use stink bombs, and we're going to have, like, some sort of, there's like, you got these two guys talking about, basically vandalizing the inauguration, which is so dangerous to begin with. It's what the FBI and the CIA and all those type of guys do, but they really shouldn't be doing it, that way. But on the other hand, it's to lure, it does expose the radical left for what they are. Like these people, they don't deal with reality well to begin with. And a lot of them are still completely shaking their heads. They have no clue what happened, how Donald Trump got elected. They can't figure it out. They can't figure it out for the life of them. Like they can't figure out how toxic their progressive agenda actually is. And it's really kind of bizarre, in that sense that they can't figure it out, which is kind of good because, that way, that's how we win the next election because they won't learn, they haven't learned their lesson. They're still doubling down on all the things that they're doing. And the thing is that you've got all these people out there that were saying, oh, Donald Trump is never going to win, never going to win. I didn't think he was going to win because I thought it was so rigged, and it definitely was rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton. There's no doubt about it. Nobody can deny that. The media was on her side. The banks were on her side. Both parties were on her side. I mean, and I think this played. Anybody that thinks Trump is stupid or whatever, and somebody else put it really, really well. He goes, "You have a guy who defeated the banksters' money, defeated the mainstream media, defeated both political parties, and you're calling him stupid." Now mind you, he's working with really smart people. I don't think he came up with it all alone to be able to do that. But when his own party tried to basically turn him out as a leper, they turned him into a strange, the kind of, I wouldn't call him the underdog, but he was kind of the underdog going in, not from a financial point of view or like that, but kind of like the outcast, the black sheep. And they black sheep them so much that people just gravitated towards him. But that wasn't the main reason. Until the Democratic people, and there was a lot that do get it, because the amount of Democrats that voted for Donald Trump is the highest, I think, in their GOP history. I think they've never had that many Democrats switch sides. So the question, and you have to look at that and say, well, did the Democrats vote for Donald Trump because they believed in his party line, or did they vote for him for other reasons? And this is what the radical left doesn't understand. And then you can explain it to them, but they're too stupid to get it. They're brainwashed into pretty much a religious ideology of progressivism. And that's really what has happened over the past 40 to 50 years is radical Christians just turned into radical leftists. Because, they just supplemented one religion for another. And progressivism, yes, you can look at the dictionary and it says this, this, and this. But in its practice, it's basically cultural Marxism and communism and all that, social engineering and all that stuff wrapped into one. And they're ideologues. They're dogmatic. Again, these people, it doesn't matter if you explain it to them. They're incapable of understanding what went on. They're incapable of accepting something outside their belief system, and which is, again, they treat it like a religion. So with that going on, these people are just, their heads are spinning. They don't understand. Now, the Democrats that did vote for Trump, they voted not because they liked Trump, but they voted because Hillary Clinton was just not an option. And humanity was in the balance, literally, and that's not being over dramatic. This woman has openly declared how she wants to go to war with Russia and China. And, email hackings. Look at the Russia did it. Russia did it. You burnt your toast this morning, Russia did it. The email thing, which is still unsubstantiated, the DHS, CIA, NSA, FBI, these guys, they're struggling. There's one side of it saying, no, the Russians did. The other side, no, there's no proof. So these factions are fighting from within. And people see that. They can see that. And the thing is that there's been no proof of Russian tampering with the election. Hillary Clinton didn't lose the election because of the Russians. And the doubling down of that, again, is the reason why people that voted for Trump. It's like, no, Hillary Clinton will have us in a thermonuclear war with Russia. To treat a hacking with military response, that's like swatting flies with a sledgehammer. You know what I mean? It's a little bit overkill, don't you think? Yes, you got to, be careful with your national security and stuff like that, and protect your servers and everything like that. And Donald Trump, I think he's going to be draining the swamp, like he said. He just seems to be indicating that. How far will he get? Who knows? But he's got to start at the top down. The indications. This is the thing. Most of the people that are anti-Trump never listen to a single word he said. They just took the buzz clips, the sound bites from CNN and Fox News and NBC, and all that, which are all owned by the same guy, mind you, who basically does the bidding for the oil companies. And so that's Rothschilds and Rockefellers right there. This guy is so in line with these people, it's not funny. They offer you one narrative with two different, a left flavor or a right flavor to it. But at the end of the day, the narrative is to really round the people, keep them divided enough to keep them divided. But on the issues they want pushed, such as, carbon taxes or whatever, global warming, whatever, they basically, they'll keep the people dancing on those issues, gun control, whatever it is. But on the other hand, when they want something done, like we don't want Trump in there, we want, mass immigration and big banks and whatever, then you see there's no objective reporting. It's just narrative at that point. So people see through it. They see through the BS of the fake news. But the mainstream media got about 2 weeks out of it anyway. Maybe a month almost. And there's a lot of people that believe that everything that on the internet is fake. So, okay, fair enough. But if I just say to you, if you believe every other person on the on the internet is fake, and there is no shortage of fake news, there's no doubt about that. What makes everything on the mainstream media, on the TV, real? I mean, you're looking at a computer monitor versus your television set. So, what's the real difference here? You know what I mean? The other thing is how many lies, like CNN with the fake news. The New York Times, Donald Trump gave the New York Times a praise when he said, thank you for not going after the fake news story, especially the gold shops. And even up here in Canada and the CBC, this is totally disgraceful. That story, they should just drop it. They're still trying to allude to it. The guy, the so-called secret agent or whatever, has come out and said, I have nothing to do with this. He said it was a story that came from 4chan, which was a troll to this guy that basically offered a reward for anybody that could dig up garbage on Donald Trump. So some guy trolled him with this over-the-top bizarre story, which went on to 4chan. 4chan then, somebody from there sent it to John McCain. John McCain sent it to the CIA or whatever, or the DHS, one of those. And then they gave it to CNN, and then, of course, CNN ran with it. Meanwhile, 15 minutes of research, you probably would have figured out it was a bullshit story. And nowhere was to be seen the George Soros-funded Snopes, the truth, the ones that are supposed to decide what fake news is. So CNN gets caught, fake news there. A couple of weeks before that, fake news. Weapons of mass destruction, fake news. CIA saying, well, we're a trusted organization, whatever. No, you guys got 1.5 million Iraqis killed, and about 6,000 U.S. troops killed, and other troops around the world on a lie where George Bush is still walking around scot-free, even after their administration found out it was a lie. So basically, you destroyed a country on a lie. Libya, and in Iraq, where you had a CNN report pretending that they were getting shelled, and their helicopter was supposed to have got hit by an RPG, which right there tells you the story's bullshit. Your helicopter gets hit by an RPG, like a direct hit by an RPG, you either got hit by the RPG or you didn't. If you didn't get hit by the RPG, your helicopter made it probably most likely back to base. If you got hit by the RPG, they'll be digging particles of your body out of the ashes. Those weapons are extremely powerful. If they hit you, you're done for. These things blow up tanks. So the CNN reporter gets caught last year. Again, fake news after fake news. Oh, I'm so sorry. And he still got his job. He still has his job. And it's just, it's like people, they don't believe you anymore. And it's, so when Donald Trump, put that CNN reporter in his place, no, I'm not going to give you a question. You're fake news. Fine. But now, the bad side to this is that if there are legitimate reporters out there, you put the ball into Trump's corner by simply allowing him to discredit. There might be legitimate people asking legitimate questions and trying to get legitimate truth. And that way, if people are distrusting of the mainstream media, you've screwed up any possibility of that, like that type of thing. So that sets us up for either the mainstream media just completely becomes, over time, compliant to Trump, and they're non-objective anyway, which is not good, or that they double down and they just keep lying and then completely ruin journalism altogether. And that's what's really at stake. One thing Trump is going to do, again, there's a lot of things he's been talking a good talk. Out of the gate, we're going to have to see, because again, Trump is not in power until the next couple of days. He's already working on things. Like Trump is like meeting after meeting. I mean, if you saw his first press conference, I mean, that was like being in a board meeting. That was, here's what we're going to do. In the first 2 weeks, you're going to see this in action. Trump said it's going to take about 2 years for me to get, before you start seeing real results. And trust me, it will be a long 2 years. Trump has talked about the financial bubble we're in. One of very few, Harper did too, credit where credit's due. Harper talked about he hinted at it. The global economy is unstable. There's possible bubbles everywhere. That type of thing, we need to proceed with caution. And he was right. Now, Trudeau ignored this, and now we're $30 billion into deficit, and growing, and scam after scam with Trudeau up here in Canada. And then, of course, we're going to be such shambles. Our economy's starting to fail now. We're starting to go into our 2008 collapse. Canada is just behind the times. That's the only difference. That said, there could be black swans. There could be, things, unaccountable stuff. But you have to understand the financial system is going to probably try to put a financial collapse to blame it on Donald Trump. Because if they can't get a war going with Russia or China or Iran, then they can't blame an economic collapse on it. Right? That seems to be the goal. All else fails, the bankers take you to war. Now, where it gets interesting is that Trump does have a trump card here, so to speak. And he's been alluding to it in his campaign. He goes, America is broke, we have no money. And it's true, all our money is over there somewhere. And not only that, we're a debtor nation. And that's true. The United States has a debt and debt-based economy. Max Kaiser coined this little phrase, debt and debt-based economy, a couple of years ago. And he's so right. You either take the U.S. petrodollar, or they drop democracy JDAMs on you in the name of women and children. You usually end up killing more women and children. And that's what you're seeing with regime change everywhere. That's what Obama calls it. That's what Clinton called it. Gaddafi was regime change. That's U.S. foreign policy. That's U.S. interest. Libya's in shambles right now. Syria, again, they've lost Syria for now. But these banksters, they don't quit. They're going to keep trying to double down. But the thing is they're losing the plot. And the thing is by... Oh, yeah, but Assad is such an evil dictator, we have to overthrow him. Syria wasn't bugging anybody before 2010. Most Americans don't even know where Syria is anyway. You know what I mean? And let alone Damascus, right? You got that guy that was running who didn't know where Damascus was. One of the main issues of this election, I believe, was U.S. foreign policy. And I think people, especially when they see that the ISIS guys are pretty much... And a lot of people in the government, I guess because they're compartmentalized, they really truly believe that they're arming moderate rebels. And they're like, no, Russia isn't... I saw this in the Halifax Security Forum the other day. Like, Halifax isn't bombing ISIS, they're bombing our guys. And they're correct, you are bombing your guys. But your guys are the ISIS guys. Look, they keep changing names. At first, it was Al-Qaeda, or the Free Syrian Army. Then Al-Qaeda came in. And then when the U.S. veterans were still serving in those areas saying, you mean we're fighting the bad Al-Qaeda in Iraq, and we're supporting the good Al-Qaeda in Syria? Oh, no, their name is Al-Nusra. These are moderate rebels. And then Al-Nusra started, cutting the hearts out and eating the hearts out of dead Syrian soldiers and doing chemical attacks on people and stuff like that. Okay, no. The good guys are al-Sham and ISIL. They're the moderate rebels. And ISIS. Oh, the ISIS is just the varsity team. You don't have to worry about them. Oh, now they're the big major force there. Oh, al-Baghdadi. John McCain has a picture with almost all the prominent ISIS and al-Nusra leaders. He armed them. He openly admitted he armed them. These are his friends, his good guys. You've got ISIS running around with M16s and American-made tow missiles. You know what I mean? I think people pretty much know the jig's up. That's the proxy army to overthrow Assad, because the Americans in 2011 said they didn't want to go to war after the U.S. did the airstrikes in Syria with the cruise missiles, and Syria didn't respond because they know that's exactly... The Syrians are smart. They know that. The same with this Israeli airstrike that just happened a couple of days ago or whatever, about a week ago for making this video. The Syrians are not going to respond because they know that's what the U.S. and Israel wants. And again, all this does go back to the Greater Israel Project. Looked at the Samson option, the Clearly Plan, the Balfour Declaration. Look at all those things, and then you'll kind of understand what's going on to a good degree. But the Greater Israel Project is mostly what the Middle East is about. It's also about the preserving of the petrodollar, gas pipelines, minerals, resources. Golden rule. He who has the gold rules. He who controls the gold rules. He who controls the passageway of the gold rules. You get the idea. It's command and conquer type of thing, and that's what they're after. That's what it's hegemony, but it's failing. So Trump is out there signaling that he's willing to work with the Russians, possibly willing to work with Assad, and if that happens, ISIS is gone within 2 weeks. And think of the feather in the cap that Trump gets to brag about. We cleared out ISIS in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. Mind you, the Syrian army's already done all the heavy lifting, but they could be a supporting role in there. They don't even have to put tens of thousands of guys in there. And if they did that, that really does destabilize the world elites because they're anti-Russia. And the reason why they're anti-Russia is because you have to look at the world busted into two sections. The Anglo-American transatlantic empire, petrodollar, this is Canada, the United States, Europe, versus the Eurasian Pacific empire, which is Russia, China, Iran, India, BRICS nations, and some African nations and South American nations that are jumping on the bandwagon now. That's what's going on. That's a big part of the Middle East as well. Because after Iran falls, which I'm still worried about Trump's stance on Iran. Will he go to war with Iran? I don't know. At the end of the day, that's what Israel wants, is to go to war with Iran. They want the United States to go to, again, fight Israel's wars again. And I bash on Israel, not the Israeli people, but their government. Again, they got a bad government there. And right now you're seeing the Israeli freak out, so to speak, where 70 nations are kind of for the two-state solution. Israel is probably not going to exist in 10 to 15 years. Anyway, you got prominent guys like Henry Kissinger saying this, George Soros, Jacob Rothschild. The list goes on and on. Zygmunt Brzezinski. All these people that are at the top, I can't stand any of these people, but they are probably right. They are probably right. It's the Israelis they're taking $10.5 billion a day from the United States a day. That's the number I heard. Whether that's true or not, again, look into it for yourself, because if it's not true, then whatever. But it's a lot of money that they're getting in whatever. And we need to stop backing Israel in that sense. That way, if they you need to be critical on Israel. And unfortunately, and I've been saying this a lot lately, is that a lot of Christians cannot be objective when it comes to Israel. But what I would say to those Christians is just look at the Ten Commandments. Is Israel following them? The Israeli government following them? No, they're not. They're breaking the Ten Commandments. God's commandments trump Israel, even if you think they're the chosen people, whatever. You got to look at it like that. So they're not following God's laws. So you can't support Israel when they do these things. If they support the laws, then fine, if you're a Christian. Because, again, a lot of these Zionist Christians, Zionists, not all of them are Jews, a lot of them are Christians too. You can wrap them all up politically correctly as neocons. And they're on both sides of the aisle. And that was clearly seen. Look at the GOP, the first few things they had. All they talk about is how much they love Israel, how much they love Israel, how much. Well, who you love? Who are you going to work for? Israel or the United States? You're being elected to be an American, that type of thing. But because the Israeli lobby is so darn, you might as well say it runs the U.S. government. That's what keeps your foreign policy so bad, right? So you have to bash in on that. Now, the Democrats were supposed to be the anti-war party, but they clearly weren't. And under Obama, okay, we have to look at Obama's record here. In 2008, if I would have been American, I probably would have voted for Obama. I definitely would have re-voted for him in 2012. The first 2 years, Obama was basically, oh, it's not his fault because he inherited such a bad economy from George Bush that it's not his fault, and his hands are tied, so, cut him some slack. And that argument was, I think, a valid argument for the first 2 years because it takes a while for a president to actually settle in. And especially after you got to understand that $4 trillion deficit took 200 plus years, 200 to 240 years for the first $1 trillion, and George Bush doubled it in 8 years. To get to added total of 8 years, it brought it up from $1 trillion right up to $4 trillion. That's an astronomical amount of money. That much money barely exists on the planet. In cash form, it doesn't exist. And then Obama, in 8 years, takes it to $20 trillion, just a little under $20 trillion. So he's had 8 years to fix the problem, and he didn't. The unemployment, you got 94 to 96 million people out of work. Donald Trump has said those numbers. Again, so the real unemployment rate is not 4.7 in the United States. It's 62% of the people are working. So that's like 28% unemployment rate. That's worse than the Great Depression. It's just the red lines are electronic now. And you've got over 50% of people in the States using some sort of food stamps or whatever. And an extra 10 million just in the last year alone. It's just ridiculous. In other words, there's no growth in the United States. There really isn't. Maybe in some sectors there is, but everything is inflated in a bubble. The housing bubble, the student loan bubble. These things are still going on. Obama hasn't fixed the banking system at all. They've just doubled down on what they did to lead us to the 2008 collapse. Not one banker went to jail. Obama has started more wars than any other president in U.S. history. Obama has sold more weapons than any other president in U.S. history, most of them to the Middle East, going to countries like Saudi Arabia, arming ISIS, etc., etc. And again, it's pretty much openly admitted that they arm ISIS. We can't vet the moderate rebels. Yes, we know. And the State Department's out there saying, yeah, we know our weapons are ending up in the hand of ISIS, but we don't know how to vet them. And when you had that U.S. military general out there saying, yeah, we spent $50 million training maybe 4, possibly 5 guys. What, was it 4 or 5? You know what I mean? At least give us that much, It just goes on and on. So the blunders are there. Now, the utopian leftists, Obamanoids out there, they can't see objectively. Obama has done nothing for anybody. Racial tensions are higher than they've ever been. In 2008, people weren't trying to kill each other in the street over their race because, St. Trayvon, whatever, or Black Lives Matter. These things didn't exist. So in just 8 years, racial tensions are the highest. They were better under Jim Crow laws. Think about that. So it means black people and white people under Jim Crow laws got along better than what they do now. And that's because Trump is a racist. No, this is Obama. Obama owns this. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on about the failures of Obama. Again, and all the authoritarian legislation he brought. This man in the past couple of weeks just brought in basically an American version of the Soviet Ministry of Truth. I'll be covering, I forget which bill it is, but anyway, under the NDA. The NDA, sections 1021 and 1022, basically they could scoop you up in the middle of the night without warrant. This came in under Obama. So that's what people are rejecting, that. The wars, the militarization of, like Obama right now is setting a whole bunch of landmines for Trump. That's going to be hard for him to undo. The NATO escalations on Russia's border. This came in on Trump's watch. Or on Obama's watch, and Clinton. The Middle East is a disaster because of Clinton and Obama. That's why, and again, I don't even know why they even ran Hillary Clinton. They could have ran her, but their winning horse would have been Bernie Sanders. And dare I say, Bernie Sanders probably would have won over Trump. I don't know by about how much, but he most likely would have won over Trump, considering the amount of lefties that actually voted for Trump. They definitely would have voted for Sanders. But even Sanders is like a fish. He flip-flops. First he's for Hillary, then he's against. Now, Trump, I don't think he's pro-Hillary. The things he's saying, I think, are smoke screens, but we'll only be able to judge him by his actions. Most people that voted for Trump don't know if they can trust him yet or not. A lot of people say, well, within the first 60 days, 2 months, we're going to know, if Trump backs down on everything he says. But right now, it looks like he's like, right out of the gate, no, I'm building that damn wall. We're not going to wait. We're building that damn thing right away. Okay, so that was part of what he was getting voted for. People don't want mass illegal immigration in the country. They don't mind legal immigration for the most part. Most people are moderate that way. Nobody wants mass illegal immigration in their country. That's just stupidity. You see it in Europe right now. It's just complete stupidity. And people know what it's for. They know they want the illegals in. The Democrats want because they want voters. The GOP want them in because it's cheap labor. And which doesn't work anyway because we have a robot economy just around the, everything is becoming automated. Look, you don't pump, the gas attendants don't pump your gas anymore. You go into grocery stores, you have cashierless checkouts, and it's growing, like everything is automated. What are we going to do with all these people? It's like, it's just disaster after disaster after disaster, right? And the global elites, they're like, oh, well, we need all this technology. It'll make life so much easier. Yes, but they cut their nose to spite their face. Like, it's stupid. If you put everybody out of work with a robotic economy, what are you going to do with all these people? Well, maybe if we could start a war, just get rid of people. That's the way these people think. Like, they're lunatics. And referring to going to war with Russia, not once, not twice, but tons of times. Again, I listened to hours of Hillary Clinton speak. I listened to hours of Trump speak. Trump was the only candidate out there that wasn't, let's get Russia, cha-cha-cha. Let's go to war with Russia. We've got to be tough with Russia, whatever. Trump has said, we're going to negotiate with Putin from a position of strength. And something that was said at the Halifax Security Forum that I watched the other day on CPAC was very interesting. One guy said, he goes, one thing about Trump, he goes, I worked in the Reagan administration. Everybody said, oh my God, Reagan's going to have us in nuclear war and we're still here. But he goes, with Trump, he goes, he is an egomaniac. There's no doubt about that. God help Putin if he crosses Trump. And I think that's why you're seeing Putin butter up to Trump. Because I think Putin's like, oh, okay, whoa, we've had it good for 8 years because all the Russians had to do to make the U.S. look bad was tell the truth. That's it. The Russians were in that unique of a situation where all we have to do to vilify the U.S. is just expose their U.S. foreign policy and how bad it is. And if you didn't listen to Putin's Christmas Eve speech, I think you should. A lot of great things said in there. Now, Putin, do I trust him? No. Do I think Trump and Putin are in bed together? I don't think so. I think Trump is the real deal, but it's who he's got surrounded with that I'm more concerned about, and more importantly, will they work with him or are they just going to sabotage him? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, for example, the GOP won't let him pass anything or whatever. But Trump, the thing about Trump is he's, like Putin, you would say he's a tactician and a chess player. But Trump is a bull in a china shop. And the problem with that is I think the penalties of crossing Trump are going to be heavy. Putin probably, they've already been testing to see what the Trump administration is going to do and probing and stuff like that, doing like little military escalations here and there, just to see what the Trump's response is going to be. Trump hits them like that. Putin's like, our nuclear arsenal, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Trump's like, yeah, well, we don't want nukes on the planet. And he's the only politician I heard during the thing saying, nukes are a horrible thing. They shouldn't even exist on the planet, but if they're going to exist, we better have good ones. Okay, well, we're going to hit you with a hammer. Sure, you poke us, we're going to just smack you with a baseball bat. That's what Trump is saying. So don't even try it, And I think the Russians are kind of like, well, we'll wait till he gets in office. This is why they're playing well with him. They're inviting Trump to, for example, the peace talks on Syria, which the United States has been, the Obama administration has been not privy to. They've been basically, they're being held in Kazakhstan, and the Russians have extended a invitation for the Trump administration to come to these talks. That's a big step. And Trump says it best, if he gets along with Putin, he goes, I don't know if I'm going to get along with Putin, but if I do, that's not a bad thing. And that's true. Now, mind you, there's a lot of Eastern Europeans that are very worried about Trump and Putin being cozy together. But again, Trump, if he's going to, I'm trying to figure out what he means by negotiate from a position of strength. Well, Trump is already talking about nuclear de-escalation. The Russians, they're responding to it, but again, we'll only be able to judge them by their actions. But the step is in the right direction. I don't care how bad, like if Obama, as bad as he is, if he could have at least took down the nuclear escalation a bit, I'm okay. Like a world war, people can survive. A nuclear world war is a different story, and we're so close to the brink of war. Like, I'd like to see the acknowledgement of Trump to acknowledge that we are in a second Cold War. I mean, an official acknowledgement that we are so then we know what people know how serious it is and why we need to negotiate and work out. That type of thing. That said, do I trust the Russians? No, I don't trust the Russians. I don't trust the Chinese. My thing about Trump is, yeah, I think with China, I'm more worried about Trump's stance on China than it is on Russia. But we could just see a role reversal where they were trying to play under the Kissinger brand, trying to play China off of Russia. I think they're now going to play Russia off of China. So that type of thing. We'll work with Russia, but China, we're going to start smacking them with tariffs and stuff like that and start trade wars. Which Trump also did something very unique the other day. And again, this also is the reason why the stock market should not be too big to fail should go away. And he is signaling that. One of the things he's signaling is the U.S. dollar is too strong and it's hurting our exports. And just on that, the Canadian dollar went up to 77 cents. Now, for the longest time under the Harper government, the U.S. dollar and the Canadian dollar were at par. And most of the 10 years, our dollar was slightly stronger, $1.03, $1.08. I think at one point we were at like $1.15. Then it came down to like 98 cents, 97 cents. So it was parity. So Americans, okay, with the even if the dollar was like $1.03 Canadian, whatever, okay, we'd get a bit better deal going down there because with a stronger Canadian dollar and their prices, because their economy of scale is bigger, their prices tend to be a lot bigger, or savings be a lot bigger. But we were still getting a lot of Americans taking advantage of Canadian products. And right now, something that Trudeau has alluded to, and I think Trump is aware of this, why he's not jabbing at us too much. Mexico, he can jab at. China, he can jab at. But Canada, 36 states rely on Canada heavily for imports and exports. They rely on our products, mainly gas, oil, stuff like that, natural gas. 80% of our natural gas goes to the States. God knows how much of our oil goes to the States. I don't know. That type of thing. So Trump has to, rescind NAFTA. But I think with NAFTA, he's just going to do like Obamacare, repeal and replace. So it's not, okay, we're going to scrap it all at once with no backup plan. So what he's talking about is basically reform and sensibility. I haven't seen all the politicians worldwide, they're not even close to that sensible. So one thing at a time. Now the thing is to keep Trump dancing is they got to throw crisis after crisis after crisis at him. And one of the crises that they're trying to set up right now is the Israeli freakout. So that he's either going to have to choose between the Putin administration or the Israel. That's what I think they're going to be setting them up so that, Hezbollah is attacking Israel again through Lebanon, and then they're not doing that yet, but that's what I think the setup's going to be. And then, the Syrian government and the Iranian government back Hezbollah, so we have to go after them because they support terrorists. And I think that's the push that Washington is going to try to push on Trump. Will he bite? I don't know. He is very close to the Zionist factions. That worries me. But the actions that he has been taking so far are steps in the right directions. Trying to get people to bring their jobs back to the States. Now, again, not one job has been created by Trump yet, so to speak. But the people, I think a lot of businesses, whatever business plans they had to export their jobs to China, Russia, or China, India, and Mexico and stuff like that, might be going on hold because, if he's going to be putting 35% tariffs on us, it doesn't matter, even if the Congress will never pass that, which they probably won't. It's the threat of it. When Trump makes a threat about the economy changes. The Dow Jones goes up or goes down or whatever. The dollar goes up, goes down. And that's why the stock market should be left to fail on its own. It shouldn't drag down the people with it. And he's also very warm to Rand Paul's idea of auditing the Fed. Now, again, until he's inaugurated, auditing the Fed is the first step in overhauling and draining the swamp. The amount of people that you can throw in jail just on that, and if you start throwing in central bankers in jail, remember Eric Holder, Obama's guy, saying, they're too big to jail? That's the guy you should have started with. Loretta Lynch, I think you're going to see so many lawsuits come out in the first month. It's just going to be bang, 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 bang. The optics on it will be excellent. The media will be terrified. The progressive lefties will be terrified, but you don't have to worry about the progressive lefties. Yes, they'll riot. They're not organized. George Soros is organized. The Rothschilds, Rockefellers are organized. You go after the top dogs, the rest of that cookie crumbles very easily. So we're hoping that's what it is. And as a Canadian, I watch this, I'm like, I really pray that Donald Trump is the real deal because all the steps will be towards world peace, nuclear de-escalation. It's not going to happen overnight. The world elites have really messed up this planet in the past 150 years. It's nothing new in history. It's just with the technology they've done it worse. The fact that the Trump administration is not going to Davos. Now, Justin Trudeau's not going to Davos because I think he's just following, again, we Canadians will follow suit of the Americans because we're so interlinked and tied. I just look at the Americans as my southern Canadian brothers and sisters and stuff like that. Although some Canadians get mad whenever it's like a Norwegian and a Swede, calling a Norwegian a Swede and a Swede a Norwegian. There could be a little bit bitter rivalry there, but they're brothers. They're brothers. It's like calling Poles and Hungarians the same. No, I'm Polish. No, I'm Hungarian. That country sucks. No, this country sucks. Whatever. Greeks and Italians. It's that kind of rivalry. Canadians and Canadian rivalry and American rivalry is tongue in cheek. It's tongue in cheek. At the end of the day, there's nothing we won't do for each other. We're brothers and sisters. The mainstream media, the divides, like the cultural divides that we have, are so little. It's like it is what it is. But that said, so Trudeau's out there saying, no, we're not going to go to Davos. But Trump was the first one out there saying, I'm not going to Davos because these are the people. It's bad optics. It puts me at odds with my electorate. My electorate voted me because they don't want me to be in that 1%. Whatever. Maybe at the end of the day, he whatever. I'll make deals behind closed doors. Whatever. Trump is a wheeler and dealer. We know that. But the other thing, when Fidel Castro died, you had, my prime minister was such an embarrassment. And I hate that when all these prominent, like the Saudi king when he died. Oh, he was such a great man. He's a fucking tyrant. Fidel Castro was a fucking tyrant as well. Sure, he was a smart man. He was a brilliant man, but he was a dictator. I mean, why did we go in Okay, they went to Syria, okay, to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. But why didn't the U.S. military just invade Cuba? And overthrow their government. He was a dictator. Raul's still a dictator. Why don't you overthrow him? You know what I mean? Kim Jong-un, why don't you overthrow him? You know what I mean? Like, it's people see the emperor has no clothes. And Trump is pointing a lot of that out. Now, the thing is Trump has said a lot of things that he's going to have to make good on. The economy, I think, is a big issue, but the draining the swamp, the getting rid of the corruption, that's the biggest. And I think that's why you're seeing the freak out in the mainstream media and stuff like that. They're terrified because the amount of people that probably will go to jail. I think the amount of CIA guys and stuff like that, the fighting within the CIA, the NSA, the DHS, mind you, the DHS is a terrorist organization, terrorizes its own people. It's basically the SS Waffen division of the U.S. It's basically jackboot thugs for the U.S. The CIA, I think John Brennan, I hope he goes to jail. That's what Trump needs to do, is put people in jail. The policies you did, you armed terrorists, you did this, you destabilized the world. Get some freaking one charge, crimes against humanity, but get George Soros. Trump has alluded to, and I think Trump is like he's probably bursting at the seams, just trying to tell everybody, okay, this is exactly what we're going to do. He's hinting at it, but I think we're not going to see his play his cards until after the inauguration date, and I think things are going to happen quickly. If they don't happen at all, then whatever. This also brings us up to the point that will there be an assassination attempt at the inauguration? There was a violin found with some firearms in it in one of the D.C. parks in the area where the inauguration was going to be. There was a tip by Putin. Now, mind you, this could be a Russian ploy too to heighten the paranoia of Trump. The Russians could have done this. Anybody could have done this. But the Russians could have also been telling you the truth. But it does make it really, really strange when these things happen. There's a few terrorist attacks where, like for example, the Boston bombing, where the Russians, well, we kind of know who did it. If you want to know, we got some intelligence for you. And these guys, again, mind you, they linked it right to the CIA. They linked these brothers right to the CIA and their handlers. Again, so the Russians, are they just telling the truth? It's hard to say. You don't know. Did they plant this violent case of firearms? Who knows? But then again, they kind of probably... There's only two ways the Russians could know this stuff. A, they're in on it. B, they are really spying on the U.S. And I think B is probably... Edward Snowden is a Russian spy. He's a spy, counter, quadruple, duple spy. He's an intelligence guy. I don't think he goes to the highest bidder. I do believe he has a loyalty to one country. But which country is that, I don't know. It might not necessarily be Russia. It might not necessarily be the United States. Right now, it looks like Russia. So you got guys like Snowden. Bradley Manning might be getting pardoned by Obama. I think he has no choice. Obama's got to... Well, I got to pardon somebody that's going to have good optics on it. I'll do him. Bradley Manning versus Snowden. I would, the only thing Obama can do right now to steal it from Trump is pardoning the two of them. There's issues with pardoning the two of these guys. I would reduce the sentence for Bradley Manning and make sure he never works in the government again. Snowden, I really don't know if he should pardon Snowden. I think he should be, but I would say with a lot of caveats. Like, again, this guy can never, okay, because, but then again, the Snowden emails leaked and stuff like that, and all that data leaked. Look what it exposed. So, whistleblowers is a very, very tricky thing. You don't want people, telling your intelligence, but the fact that everybody's being spied on by the NSA, we wouldn't know that without Snowden. So, yeah, I would probably pardon him. But on the other hand, it's like you can't have everybody just blowing every little thing out, leaking everything out of the government. And I think Trump is going to crack down on that. I think he's going to be very authoritarian on that. But I think that's going to come with the purge of the CIA and the FBI. And Director Comey, I believe, will probably face some sort of criminal charges. I think that's why these guys are so nervous right now, and they should be. They're criminals. Again, one charge, crimes against humanity. Round them all up. You can use the NDAA to do it. You don't even have to charge these people. George Soros, send them to Guantanamo. Henry Kissinger, Brzezinski, the Rothschild faction, the Rockefeller faction. Get them all. Get these guys. Start with those guys. Round them up. Send them to Guantanamo. Waterboard them, particularly Soros. Waterboard him as much as you can. Torture him as much as you can to get the information out of him. Do it with Kissinger. Then you'll find out who he's really working for. Get the strings. And indefinite detention. You've got the laws to do it. You want to see how fast the elites will want to repeal those laws? Oh, no. We need justice. We need rule. You need warrants now. The very people that, so we don't need warrants. We need to, because national security. No. You start turning this on the world elites. They'll get rid of it. Why? Because they're libertine in their mindset. We're going to crack down on you, but at the end of the day, no, we're going to, the laws are for you, not for us. And this is what Trump has to restore, is rule of law. Again, like I've said before, Trump is a last chance halyard of man overboard. If you don't grab that halyard, the ship is going to sail away on you. And if that ship sails away, so does rule of law, peace, and you will have a real civil war, not these manufactured. You're going to get a civil war under Trump. You're seeing it. It's kind of like a soft war right now, where people are trying to coup the administration before he gets in. They're trying to steal the election. They, even after trying to steal the Electoral College, they're trying to steal this, trying to steal that, trying to make sure that nobody goes along with the Trump faction. So there is a coup taking place within it. It's still going. Steve Pieczenik was right. They did do a coup, but it was a soft coup because. And I believe Steve Pieczenik, I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. That's the thing. He does come off as he's kind of a good guy, but then his ties to Kissinger, but then I heard him kind of roll on Kissinger the other day. And it's kind of like, I don't know. There's, again, the people behind the curtain are so shady that, the good guys, bad guys is a blurred line. And again, that's my worry, is the new boss going to be worse than the old boss? Is it just that bloody New World Order faction chair that I've been talking about for years that everybody wants to sit in? They're just knocking each other off to sit in. So really, is it, the Italian mob, the Irish mob, or the Russian mob going to be running the show? You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. It's like they're all mob. The little people ain't going to win. But if Trump is the real deal, or attempts to be the real deal, the people will support Trump, whether he fails or not. So that is, for 4 years, it's going to be rough no matter what. Where I think the first crises that are going to come in on Trump are probably going to be coinciding with something to do with Israel, but they're going to be financial. They're trying to leave Obama with a 20,000 Dow Jones, but most people who have half a brain understand that the stock market is propped up. It's Fortune 500 companies that get government funding, most of them. They wouldn't be Fortune 500 countries if it wasn't for the prop up of being bailed out all the time. So if Trump starts going after too big to fail, that's one thing. If he devalues the currency and writes off debt, that's another. That'll be, it'll be tough I think it's going to be tough no matter which way we go. So that's why I say have food, that type of thing. Right now, just to keep in mind, 1 ounce of silver can buy you about 5 to 6 months worth of food in Venezuela. If you see what's happening down there, don't think it can't happen here. And I'm, myself, I'm like, pretty sure within the next week or two you'll see seeds being, like for gardens, being sold everywhere. Even if you can't get freaking, non-GMO seeds, buy whatever you can get. Buy whatever you can get, because Get tomatoes, get potatoes, get cucumbers, get whatever you know. It takes 16 weeks to grow a crop of food. And I have a feeling farming is going to take hold pretty soon as the food prices go. They're just going through the roof here in Canada. My dad's coming back home each time with less and less groceries. Basically, my dad's a picky eater, so I let him do all the grocery shopping. I just give him the money and here, whatever, my share of it, whatever, and he buys whatever. But it's just the prices are just going up and up and up and up and up. And the thing is that's because the economy is so bad worldwide. It's not that the cost of things are going up, it's the value of our currency is going down. And Trump knows this. And Trump knows he's been warning about it, that he's basically inheriting an insolvent bankruptcy is what he's inherited. And he knows this. So this is why, the Trump administration is already presidential. He's already presidential. This guy's been acting like a president since he started campaigning. Not in the sense, yes, he says bizarre things and stuff like that. I get that. Oh, the people that can only function on that plane level will never understand. But the people that understand the economy to a good degree, they understand global geopolitics to a good degree, they're getting what Trump is really after. And the signaling I'm seeing, he's already in meetings of what are we going to do about this, what are we going to do about that. He's got consultants here. He's already shuffling people around, firing people, hiring people. I think in the Trump administration, if you don't perform, you're gone. This is Trump's ultimate reality show. You know what I mean? This is, okay, I'm going to show you how it's done. And you need that guy right now. You need that no bullshit kind of guy, cater or pander. No, the job's going to be done or you're fired. And that's what government accountability, that's the biggest problem. No matter what level of government you're talking about, it's almost impossible to fire people. But I think under the Trump administration, you're going to get fired, you're going to get fired. And it'll be very public. Yes, Trump is an egomaniac, but I think he is really the best option right now. If he's not a puppet. If he's a puppet, there's going to be, and again, I'll be critical with Trump. Again, his stimulus spending. Most economists his stimulus spending is an insane idea. We're already $20 trillion in deficit. For him to expand the military, how is he going to do that? Well, there is ways he can do it. We just don't know what his plan is yet. That's the thing. And I remember Trump saying during the election, well, I'm not going to bore you with the details now, but people kind of need to see the details. The healthcare thing, I like the way he's going about it. Repeal and replace. It won't be single payer like up here in Canada. Up here in Canada, it works to a degree, but you can die waiting for treatment. So it's not the best healthcare system in this at all. And I think if Trump is successful, he said, the good parts of Obamacare, they're going to keep. He goes, and I think he said it best, he goes, we could just let Obamacare fail, because the Democrats own that one. But he says, that's not fair to the people. That was nice to hear. So he goes, I'm doing the Democrats a huge favor. The GOP is doing the Democrats a huge favor by revamping it. And it's going to help more people. Nobody's not going to have coverage. And he's going to open up competition, stuff like that. Will it be flawless? I doubt it. I mean, there's no such thing. When you're sick, you're sick. There's no such thing as the perfect healthcare system. People die. You know what I mean? But it can be better. It can be better globally. In this day and age, there's a lot of things, like, for example, just cutting the funding to Israel will probably help you with your medical situation. If it's truly $10 billion a day going to Israel, wow. I don't know if that's all in or just the state's proportion, but it's just an astronomical, ridiculous amount of money going there. Cut the foreign spending. You cut the foreign spending, you could probably take care of the retirees, pave your roads, and do a tax cut, and have health care. And for my fellow Canadian audience, Obamacare, the problem is Canadians say, why would they want to get rid of Obamacare? Because they're thinking the Obamacare is like the Canadian health care. It's nothing. You're paying hundreds of dollars a month for this, and if you don't qualify, you're paying thousands of dollars a year on Obamacare. Picture paying $400 a month, an extra $400 a month payment, and you don't use enough to get the deductible. It's such a scam. That doesn't help anybody. Less people have been helped. Yeah, 7.5 million people or 10 million people have been helped by Obamacare, but millions and millions and millions and millions of people don't qualify, and they're paying through. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. The Canadian healthcare mission statement is 17 pages. Obamacare, I've heard two numbers, 2,500 and 25,000 pages. No matter how you look at it, it's ridiculous. So repeal and replace, I think that's Trump's approach for everything. Repeal and replace, negotiate, which will work out the best. I think he's going to have to do the same. I don't think he's just going to cut NAFTA altogether. But I think the big trade deals like Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership and stuff like that, those things are gone, which is good because those things are definitely globalist oriented. And really, you got to look at civic nationalism versus globalism is what Trump is. And I think civic nationalism is rising around the world. Anyway, you're seeing nationalists rise everywhere because people don't want to give their countries up to these globalists. So the EU is probably going to fail in 2017, 2018. The Rothschilds, yes, they want their one world currency by 2018, but I don't think that's going to happen if Trump is the real deal. That said, the amount of turmoil these world elites will put us through is unbelievable. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens at the inauguration, how disruptive it will be. I believe for the first couple of months it's going to be disruptive. And I do believe Trump will be authoritarian towards those leftists and the leftist groups and stuff like that. He's going to out them. He'll out Soros. Hopefully follows in Russia and Hungary's path and ban all George Soros-funded groups, that type of thing, and NGO groups in the States. Hungary just did that. Russia's done that for a while. We need to do that here in Canada because technically you could say George Soros is the Prime Minister of Canada. John McClellan made this very clear. Now, John McClellan is moving on to different pastures. Thank God, get him out of my country. I can't stand the guy. But anyway, I'll leave it at about that. So hopefully things work out for Trump. And again, even if you're anti-Trump, you really don't want him to fail. Again, people have made this analogy, and I think it's a good analogy. Wanting Trump to fail is like, because you don't like the pilot that's flying your plane, you want him to crash. You know what I mean? Like, it'll take you down, too, if Trump fails. And I think there's a lot of people that are seeing that. Now, all these stars and stuff like that, they're just being ridiculous. And it's backfiring on Hollywood. The majority of the people, okay, and again, you have, what was it, the girl there from RT America, the resident, the cute girl there, she goes, I'm a leftist, whatever, and she goes, and she was talking about that area in New York and New Jersey and stuff like that where it's really, really left, and then she goes, outside the country, everybody else is, and outside of Hollywood, everybody else is pro-Trump. And if you really factor in a lot of things, Trump probably did win the popular vote too, if you factor in the 3 million, illegal votes, and God knows all the other stuff. But anyway, I'll leave it at that, so exciting times no matter which way we go. We'll have to wait and see what happens. So if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation channel. Links down below. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Next to that, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself, be true to others. Always do the right thing, and have yourselves a great day. Good day, hi, and welcome. All right. So we're getting down to the wire of the Donald Trump showdown of the inauguration. Check out my hat. And it's been a pretty bizarre start to the 2017. The first 20 days in, you've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. I'm out of frame here. And yeah, I don't know what we're going to see at the inauguration. There's Disrupt J20. And this has been planned for a while now. Obviously, this is going to link back to George Soros and that whole group there. The thing is that these people, Operation Veritas is kind of, although there's kind of a counter-sting operation to Operation Veritas, what's happening is they got these people going around trying to find people that are going to, basically it's just like a sting operation, basically entrapment. And they say, yeah, well, we need somebody to do this and this and this, and we're willing to pay this, this, and this. And that's what Operation Veritas is doing. And there's takers, obviously. Oh, yeah, well, we'll do it for this, we'll do that. Oh, we'll use stink bombs, and we're going to have like some sort of there's like, you got these two guys talking about, basically vandalizing the inauguration, which is so dangerous to begin with. It's what the FBI and the CIA and all those type of guys do, but they really shouldn't be doing it, that way. But on the other hand, it's to lure, it does expose the radical left for what they are. Like these people, they don't deal with reality well to begin with. And a lot of them are still completely shaking their heads. They have no clue what happened, how Donald Trump got elected. They can't figure it out. They can't figure it out for the life of them. Like they can't figure out how toxic their progressive agenda actually is. And it's really kind of bizarre, in that sense that they can't figure it out, which is kind of good because, that way, that's how we win the next election because they won't learn, they haven't learned their lesson. They're still doubling down on all the things that they're doing. And the thing is that you've got all these people out there that were saying, oh, Donald Trump is never going to win, never going to win. I didn't think he was going to win because I thought it was so rigged, and it definitely was rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton. There's no doubt about it. Nobody can deny that. The media was on her side. The banks were on her side. Both parties were on her side. I mean, and I think this played Anybody that thinks Trump is stupid or whatever, and somebody else put it really, really well. He goes, you have a guy who defeated the banksters' money, defeated the mainstream media, defeated both political parties, and you're calling him stupid? Now mind you, he's working with really smart people. I don't think he came up with it all alone to be able to do that. But when his own party tried to basically turn him out as a leper, they turned him into a strange, the kind of, I wouldn't call him the underdog, but he was kind of the underdog going in, not from a financial point of view or like that, but kind of like the outcast, the black sheep. And they black sheep them so much that people just gravitated towards him. But that wasn't the main reason. Until the Democratic people, and there was a lot that do get it, because the amount of Democrats that voted for Donald Trump is the highest, I think, in the GOP history. I think they've never had that many Democrats switch sides. So the question you have, and you have to look at that and say, well, did the Democrats vote for Donald Trump because they believed in his party line, or did they vote for him for other reasons? And this is what the radical left doesn't understand. And then you can explain it to them, but they're too stupid to get it. They're brainwashed into pretty much a religious ideology of progressivism. And that's really what has happened over the past 40 to 50 years is radical Christians just turned into radical leftists. Because, they just supplemented one religion for another. And progressivism, yes, you can look at the dictionary and it says this, this, and this. But in its practice, it's basically cultural Marxism and communism and all that, social engineering and all that stuff wrapped into one. And they're ideologues. They're dogmatic. Again, these people, it doesn't matter if you explain it to them. They're incapable of understanding what went on. They're incapable of accepting something outside their belief system, which is, again, they treat it like a religion. So with that going on, these people are just, their heads are spinning. They don't understand. Now, the Democrats that did vote for Trump, they voted not because they liked Trump, but they voted because Hillary Clinton was just not an option, and humanity was in the balance, literally. And that's not being over dramatic. This woman has openly declared how she wants to go to war with Russia and China. And, email hackings. Look at the Russia did it. Russia did it. You burnt your toast this morning, Russia did it. The email thing, which is still unsubstantiated, the DHS, CIA, NSA, FBI, these guys, they're struggling. There's one side of it saying, no, the Russians did. The other side, no, there's no proof. So these factions are fighting from within. And people see that. They can see that. And the thing is that there's been no proof of Russian tampering with the election. Hillary Clinton didn't lose the election because of the Russians. And the doubling down of that, again, is the reason why people that voted for Trump. It's like, no, Hillary Clinton will have us in a thermonuclear war with Russia. To treat a hacking with military response, that's like swatting flies with a sledgehammer. You know what I mean? It's a little bit overkill, don't you think? Yes, you got to, be careful with your national security and stuff like that, and protect your servers and everything like that. And Donald Trump, I think he's going to be draining the swamp, like he said. He just seems to be indicating that. How far will he get? Who knows? But he's got to start at the top down. The indications, this is the thing. Most of the people that are anti-Trump never listen to a single word he said. They just took the buzz clips, the sound bites from CNN and Fox News and NBC, and all that, which are all owned by the same guy, mind you, who basically does the bidding for the oil companies. And so that's Rothschilds and Rockefellers right there. This guy is so in line with these people, it's not funny. They offer you one narrative with two different, a left flavor or a right flavor to it. But at the end of the day, the narrative is to really round the people, keep them divided enough to keep them divided. But on the issues they want pushed, such as, carbon taxes or whatever, global warming, whatever, they basically, they'll keep the people dancing on those issues, gun control, whatever it is. But on the other hand, when they want something done, like we don't want Trump in there, we want, mass immigration and big banks and whatever, then you see there's no objective reporting. It's just narrative at that point. So people see through it. They see through the BS of the fake news. But the mainstream media got about 2 weeks out of it anyway. Maybe a month almost. And there's a lot of people that believe that everything that on the internet is fake. So, okay, fair enough. But if I just say to you, if you believe every other person on the on the internet is fake, and there is no shortage of fake news. No,